All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in our next series. It's going to be a PvP between these two players. Spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Protoss player representing Team Liquid. Give it up for MaNa.
And of course, just a quick reminder, this is the round of 16, getting pretty deep into DreamHack. We'll be covering the rest of the round of 16, but then DreamHack will be taking everything for the rest of the matches. We'll be hosting them when the stream's all said and done, so you guys can enjoy a full day of StarCraft, even still here on BaseTradeTV. Top left side, though, we got the red Protoss, none other than Welmu. Yesterday, we had a really, I think, nice anticipation for PvP when it came to a couple of different things. We talked about, first off, MaNa beat Haas to get here. So let's just put this out there, Welmu. Don't even bother cheesing, because apparently MaNa can handle all types. Secondly, the series we saw yesterday, Pili versus Neeb, was frankly a bit disappointing for a couple of different reasons. One, Fear Dragon loves the kid and likes to hype him up. But secondly, it was like a very one-sided matchup. And I think most of us kind of could predict that coming into it. This one, not quite the case, though. I would give MaNa a very slight edge, ever so slightly. But Welmu's PvP has always been really good. Like, even since, like, early days part of the Swarm. It's his one matchup that doesn't seem to have wavered.
Yeah, I think one of the big things, and we saw that in that Pili versus Neeb series, that really plays a huge impact in Protoss versus Protoss, is just having really good control. It is definitely one of the matchups where you have, just because I think like you have some units like Immortals or Disruptors that do damage very quickly, but there are a lot more units that have tons of health. It's not like Zergling versus Baneling micro or something like that where just things die instantaneously. So you have a bit of time to micro things back. You have a bit of time to do things with warp prisms and blinking units back. So having good micro pays off a lot in this matchup. And Welmu's definitely one of those players that likes to do somewhat weird builds that end up being pretty aggressive and utilizing a lot of early micro. So it definitely makes a lot of sense.
We had Has000 in chat saying, somebody doesn't follow the Saint as Welmu, have a good chance to win. Truth be told, it's more like a 40-60 split for me, personally. I think I give it a little bit more to MaNa. Welmu being a pretty good player, I wouldn't be surprised if he won. But I don't, first off, there's no way this series goes 3-0. If this series goes 3-0, I'm going to be very upset. Secondly, I do think that both players have an equally good chance, but MaNa doing a classic thing that MaNa does, and he gets across the map with a Mothership Core. Unfortunately, though, with the Stalkers having caught it so far in the open, all it's going to really get to do is maybe scout and then recall.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that you end up seeing a lot on a lot of other maps, but I don't really know what I think about it on this map. The rush distance.
The overcharge is going to get it. He wasn't paying attention because he's microing the Stalkers in the middle of the map. Now, losing the Mothership Core is expensive, but if he gets a Stalker lead by even just one or two of these kills, that's just as good.
But he lost a Stalker in exchange during all that as well, because his Mothership Core was getting so low on health, he had to move in further than he wanted to with 2 Stalkers versus a Stalker and 2 Adepts. So he's still behind by a good bit, and he's actually losing a bunch of workers now to the Adepts.
Yeah, that's the problem with that Mothership Core not getting that recall off. Very unfortunate, but he's got a lot of Stalkers. He's got control of the natural base, or had control, excuse me, as he gets Welmu reinforces down below. Shields from that next have been pretty much stripped. We'll see if the follow-up can actually kill it. I mean, this is, I wouldn't call it an all-in just yet, but it is a pretty big dedication out of MaNa to go this many Stalkers this early.
Yeah, I don't know if he's really going to be able to do that much over here. The nice thing is there's no pylon on the low ground over here for Welmu. He has been
Well, that's why I think he can. I think he can actually wreck the natural base. There's simply not enough to defend. Even with an overcharge, I'd still say it's questionable. That's a lot of Stalkers.
Yeah, a couple of forces, if he uses these, should be able to at least buy some time, but yeah, he needs to be able to get in there with a Mothership Core, even if it's not going to be able to push an overcharge, just adding in a little bit DPS, tanking some of the damage, but he loses quite a few units, and it's those expensive sentries that does concern me.
Yeah, he snipes off all the sentries too. It's really well handled. Got to give it up for MaNa, but he's down on workers behind this. He didn't probe like crazy while this was going on. He spent a lot of money on those Stalkers, getting that blink up and good to go. And unfortunately, taking those 5 or whatever losses from the Adepts really hurt what he was trying to do already. So now he's down by about 10 workers, and unlike TVT, working kills are pretty massive in PvP.
Yeah, 10 worker lead is insanely large in this matchup, but Welmu's getting out the Immortals. It's going to be very hard to make this kind of blink attack work, or even if it's just a defensive blink or just having blink for later engagements, it's still going to be very, very difficult as that Immortal count starts to build up. And PvP is not like it used to be where you just try and get up the robotic facility and immediately you're plopping down the robotics bay, getting up Colossus or some sort of transitioning attack. No, players just pump out tons and tons of immortals. You try and get up as many as you can before actually ever getting up robotics bay tech. So Blink Stalkers, they've seen a huge drop in the matchup. They really aren't considered the best unit to make in the later stages.
I don't know if I agree with that, but that only has to do with depending what your end game is. Like if you're looking
when you
towards
start getting disruptors and stuff, you do start making Blink Stalkers, but until that point, adepts are considered to just be superior up until the point where disruptors coming out. Well, Hallucinating Phoenix coming in over here, scouting out exactly what's going on inside the main base, just because he hasn't really seen that since his Mothership Core tried to make its way in. So he does spot out the Twilight Council, researching Resonating Glaives. He's gonna have at least an okay-ish idea of what's coming out, but this is something we haven't seen for a little bit. Warp Prism with the double immortal drop. At the same time, MaNa moving out with 4 sentries loaded up in the Warp Prism, and he has Blink on these Stalkers. Can he make some magic happen with this? Maybe force fielding units out of the main base? Welmu, I think, actually, did he? I don't think he saw anything. He's never moved to that right-hand side of the map, so I'm wondering why. He's pulling back with the Warp Prism. Maybe a little bit concerned while taking this 3rd expansion, is being a bit paranoid, but it's going to work out in his favor. He realizes he's going to need those units in case he faces off in an attack, and that's exactly what he's going to be facing. Units move in over here to the 3rd expansion. Going to be able to kill off the pylon, so no foot and overcharge, but will he be able to save the 3rd? No, he just cancels it. Not even going to try.
I mean, 10 Stalkers with Blink are going to micro hard around this, and while the Adepts might be okay, the Immortals get trapped. Nice pickup out of Welmu, though, to get this behind those force fields safe and sound. Overcharge is going to help out just a little bit. More Stalkers going to warp in. Problem for now, I mean, there's the Adepts didn't get through these shields. At the same time, though, MaNa could just blink up to the high ground, force field that ramp, and then suddenly Welmu's SOL with all those Immortals. Actually, the Archon's going to come in and try and break that force field. There we go. Nicely done. Takes out the pylon. Blink still on cooldown, but will be off in just a second. Over to the side instead of blinking away. That may be a mistake. I'm really unsure. The Stalker count is still really high. The upgrades are so good for Welmu, and his overall army supply just overshadowing everything MaNa has.
Yeah, overcommitting a little bit on that blink forward. Yeah, he sniped off the Warp Prism, and I think his idea was to just prevent the Immortals from being elevated up to the high ground. But as you said, it does cut off his capabilities of, one, blinking out of the damaged units and keeping them alive a little bit longer, but also blinking out of there to get away when he realized he was overcommitted. The Immortal count is so high right now for Welmu, and as you were saying, it's just overshadowing what MaNa has. MaNa can maybe try and defend this high ground position. If he can get up enough pylons, he can maybe float an overcharge, but it's going to be really difficult to make this work now. Another Warp Prism making its way across the map, and that might be what Welmu is waiting for, but no, Welmu's going to go for the 3rd expansion. He realizes his 3rd expansion is behind. He hasn't technically seen MaNa's, but he may be making a couple of assumptions at this point. Just because if you were going totally all in as MaNa, you'd maybe have a few more Stalkers, rather than if you had gotten that expansion up. Alright, well, Welmu's going to try and make something work on the right-hand side of the map. He does have +1 weapons finished up. It's going to give him a nice little upgrade lead. Oh, this Warp Prism is just sitting right next to all the Blink Stalkers.
So close to getting picked off. Critical units.
I mean, that...
MaNa got a bit of a sandwich effect coming in. Overcharge not going to be really used, unfortunately. He's got a lot of energy in that Mothership Core. Maybe Bob a Time Warp, I don't know. But unfortunately, he just doesn't seem ready for this fight. Positionally, Probes get put on the backside. He's just sacrifice the Nexus.
Oh. I'm actually wondering, does Welmu need to commit any further? I think he can just find, if he can find a way to just go home, he'll be okay. Like, he just got a big lead.
That's the thing. On the other side of the map, there's actually some Adepts being dropped around those mineral lines, but not getting a lot accomplished, as Welmu's been pulling his probes too. So focus and priority goes to this weird big fight in the middle of the map.
Yeah. Needs the Photon Overcharge. Oh no, the Mothership Core doesn't have any energy to Photon Overcharge. He's got to use some Warpins back at home. Warps in. High Templar is going to try and go for the feedback. He does get it. No Photon Overcharge is going to be available. He can snipe off this 3rd, and then I feel like it might be time to go home because he needs to defend against this.
That feedback was really nice. GG. Welmu going to take game number 1. That feedback was so slick. I really like that, actually. Not that it was going to be like... That's not what changed the game. There's a lot of things that... Like that Nexus being just given up for free.
Yeah.
MaNa taking awkward positioning. But that feedback was just like really nice touch at the end.
Yeah. But I will say, like, it definitely was one of those situations where killing or removing the feedback, or sorry, removing the photon overcharges just made it a little bit easier. He didn't end up actually feeling safe. MaNa never ended up feeling safe taking the engagement after losing the photon overcharge. And I can definitely understand why. At that point, he actually tapped out. That's the funny thing. He tapped out without ever taking a big engagement at the end. His army was still alive, but he lost his natural, he lost his third. He felt like it was over at that point, and I don't really blame him for it. So we hop into game number 2 and find out whether or not MaNa can really adapt to, I guess, what happened in that first game. I really don't... The Blink Stalker attack was kind of okay, but like I really don't think it ended up working out very well. Like once your opponent gets out that many Immortals, the Adepts can also shade past the force fields. It's really hard to deal with that.
Yeah. I'm F2 New Gettysburg. Love hate this map.
Why do you hate this map?
I hate playing on it, but I love watching it.
Wait, what do you hate playing on this map for?
Because I'm that idiot who will always try and use the bottom path no matter what. I just cannot get it through my head to go through the top side of the map, and I will regularly get killed in that choke.
I was gonna say, you seem like, I won't say the idiot, but you seem like the kind of like cheeky bugger who decides to take the island expansions all the time.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
So I thought you would love this map. Oh.
Now,
all right,
when this had 4 islands, maybe there'd be different games.
I know, right? You know, I always wish that the island maps, like the double islands that ended up being turned into like not island maps, I really wish that those would be like there would be 2 islands that were able to be reached by like Reapers on the north side. Reapers like with Blink Stalkers and Colossus and all that other stuff. And then you had 2 island expansions that were totally islands like they are right now. I always thought that would have been cool, like 2 different types of islands, but that's all aside. We're hopping into it. New Gettysburg for game number 2. Spawn down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. We got the blue Protoss player currently sitting up 1-0. Give it up for Welmu.
And of course, his opponent, the bottom right, representing Poland, coming all across the seas to play over here in Montreal. It's going to be the red Protoss from Team Liquid, MaNa.
Someone in the chat says, "Oh my god, Rifkin's a ventriloquist." Yes, did you also know that he's apparently casting from outside on his phone with a selfie?
Yeah. For those who don't know the thing, I got a couple of broken arms. It sucks. Because of this, I can't wear t-shirts or shirts of any variety, really. So I cannot turn my camera on between game on account of the fact that it will get us in trouble with Twitch. You're not allowed to stream shirtless, guys.
Very mildly.
Totes unfair.
Maybe you could just, instead of show your face, you could just show the bottom half, like so show your feet. That would be okay, right?
No, oh yeah, I should
your
do
feet
it.
don't
Just,
need
like,
a shirt.
super zoom in, so it's just like my eyes. Like that's all you can see on the stream. That might work.
Maybe. Although you'd have to move even less than you already are moving.
You could do what Day 9 did. Just do like the different screen regions of the eyes and the mouth. Have it look absolutely ridiculous.
Wrap yourself in a green blanket and we'll just green screen out your body.
There you go. There we go. See, problem solving.
Floating head.
Right here. Basically a buddy cop movie on Twitch is what we are.
Exactly.
I'm whitish, he's brownish.
We could even be like one of those ogres from WoW. We would be the 2-headed person. I'd put you on my shoulder.
No.
You wouldn't be able to control it. I would be in charge of the broadcasting.
Have you played Heroes of the Storm? They actually have that as a hero you can play.
I know. I was at BlizzCon. I got that hero.
Where's
really
Zomgrab? Zomgrab's actually at DreamHack Montreal. I'm supposed to be there.
Ooh. Oh, this is a really interesting corner for MaNa to be cutting. He goes to the much earlier Nexus, but completely skips any early Adepts or Stalkers. He does finally get out his following 2 Stalkers, but it's just a small little way that you can get a bit of an edge in this matchup where you know or you suspect your opponent's going to open up with the Adepts. You get out the Stalkers slightly later, and all you need to do is use them defensively. But he is going to be sending his Mothership Core across the map, so he's got to be very careful about this. He's going to potentially be taking a lot of worker losses without Photon Overcharge.
It's That's where you get the adepts to shade that wall and block out the other adepts. Thanks, Reddit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any adepts to do so.
So MaNa's tactic of doing this, by the way, is a bit of an older school thing, and back in the days of HOTS, it was a great choice. Legacy of the Void, as we see, it's just costly, and unfortunately, being down 6 workers this early for what is
soon to be
Mothership
7.
4 kind of start coming home, decides to go back with it. He got no scouting, he got no damage done himself. Just takes 7 losses and gets nothing for it.
And there's even a Stalker out now, so the Stalker plus the Sentry should be able to chase back that Mothership Core. Photon Overcharge going off. MaNa, please do not lose that Mothership Core again. He does end up taking quite a bit of damage, but keeps it alive nonetheless.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with MaNa. Something like he didn't sleep well, the practice wasn't good. I don't know what the deal is, but he is...
You know what? Now that I think about it, it's the fact that if he had not gone for the Mothership Core Scout also, I think this would have been fine versus a Stalker opening. So I think maybe he was anticipating a Stalker opening from Welmu. But because it was an Adept opening, he just was not prepared for it. Because if it was a Stalker opening, he would have 2 Stalkers versus his opponent's 2 Stalkers. But he would also have high ground vision, so it would sort of go more toward his favor in that engagement. He'd be able to push things back. He'd have his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Stalkers out in time. But just the way that I think it worked out, he went for a prediction on what Welmu would do, and he was wrong about it, so he got punished. Well, Immortal's going to be coming out for
Welmu much quicker. He's had a smoother game for this.
Yeah, it's definitely been a much smoother this game for Welmu.
The thing about Immortals that's kind of frustrating too is it's not even like the dynamic of siege tanks that we just saw in a TVT. Like one Immortal does not equate to one siege tank. Immortals are huge deals when it comes to these fights, and if MaNa is in fact going to invest in Stalkers to any variety, Immortals are going to be the ass kickers in that regard.
They are really very much like the big damage dealers, and they are also really tanky. That's the other thing. As long as you have those shields unpopped, they are very difficult to focus fire down unless you spend a lot of Stalker volleys or Adept volleys trying to take them out. Even after that.
What do you think about the barrier now that it's been halved? It's like 100 instead of 200.
I think the biggest difference that it makes is with disruptors. I think, at least in PvP, because honestly, like the barrier only lasted about 3 seconds. Even though damage happens very quickly in PvP, they happen in volleys. And I don't really think, like, if you're focus firing down an Immortal anyways, and they still have their hardened shields, it's very unlikely that you are going to have, like, so much more damage that suddenly, that extra 100 health is going to be saving it. Usually, if you're focus firing down with that large of an army, you're going to one-shot the Immortal anyways, or you're not going to kill it. So I don't think it makes as big of a difference, except for when disruptors start hitting the Immortals, in which case they're left with just less health.
Yeah, I can see that.
Double Immortal drop over here from Welmu. Once again going for this, or I guess in the last game he hinted at going for it, but didn't quite make it work. This game, I really do like it though. It's a really nice adaptation, just the fact that I think in the meta right now, there are a lot less Blink Stalkers and there are a lot more Resonating Glaive Adepts. So going for this kind of Immortal drop does work out quite well.
Yeah, he tore through that pylon really quick too, so if there's no response through units, there's no overcharge to defend. That's a very awkward amount of 4 gateways coming down that are actually unpowered while building.
Yeah. Gotta be careful about that, since that is still a bit of an Artosis pylon, or an in-control pylon, whichever you prefer. Dark Shrine gonna be coming out from MaNa, and did Welmu get an Observer? He did get an Observer, okay. Sometimes some players like to play it a little bit greedy, they just skip the Observer for an exorbitant amount of time, get up Immortals, and make something happen, especially if you go for like something like a double Immortal drop, but he should be okay, at least with his army, but there is still a bit of concern. One Observer only really protects one location. You still have to worry about all 3 of your other bases, and it's not exactly that there are photon cannons over there, but still, he might be able to kill off this 3rd expansion pretty much uncontested, especially once he gets up to the high ground. There's no way MaNa can defend that.
Never say never.
Well, I mean, he canceled the 3rd expansion already.
Yeah, that army supply difference is a pretty big deal. I was just making a joke.
Oh yeah.
The overcharges are going to add a lot of damage, but at the end of the day, he's going to actually chase those adepts.
I think he should cancel all but like 4 of them. No, he lets all of them finish. Oh, interesting.
Deal with the problem. I don't think MaNa realizes, or sorry, excuse me, I don't think Welmu realizes how much of a lead he has over MaNa.
You know what? I think I don't hate the way he's playing though. You kill the 3rd expansion and you have a big army lead. You can sort of just use this as an opportunity to say like, I know that you don't have a 3rd, my economy's better, and most importantly, I have my 5th and 6th gas geysers. I can do something like maybe go up to robotics bay tech, although he's extremely supply block right now. That is a bit of a problem. But I feel like, yeah, now is the time that you do something like you get up. Templar Archives is also good for getting up some Archons, but this is where you get up Disruptors, I think. I feel like this is the opportunity for it. If you aren't just going to try and end the game anyways. Interestingly enough, it's actually going to be MaNa that goes for the robotics bay first. And this is another way that, you know, if he realizes, hey, I have time, I'm not just immediately getting pushed into. If I can get up that 1st or 2nd disruptor, yeah, it's not guaranteed damage, but against adepts, they might be able to shade around, and in a sense, they do have blink in that way, but they're not really able to easily move out of those big disruptor shots. You do have to really rely on splitting up your adepts very, very well. Bludgeon Overcharge is going to go out, though, and I don't know if he's going to get time to get up those disruptors. Army gets surrounded. DT's coming in. Where's the observer? Okay, there's 2 observers. This should be okay. Unless they get Bludgeon Overcharge down. Nope. GG.
GG. Welmu gonna take a very nice 2-0 lead now in the series. This is a bit surprising. I really, MaNa, I don't know what's going on, man. Like, we're not seeing big, crazy macro mistakes out of him. We're just seeing these weird early game losses, and whether it's the Mothership Core here or whether it's like the worker count there, I mean, he's just not having a good series. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's... I just, like, when I see MaNa playing, I feel like he's taking risks and predicting what Welmu he thinks he's going to be doing, and he just keeps getting punished for it, like, especially that last game. First game, I think it was a little bit different, but I would love to see him just play, like, a little bit safer. Maybe not try and, like, rush down that Nexus, or heck, maybe even just try and go for his own Adept play. Adept versus Adept, it can work out fine. Like, you try and get your own damage done, you just Photon Overcharge to make sure you deal and push back your opponent's Adepts, while you get out 2 Stalkers following it up to clean them up and make sure they don't just keep pushing back in. But I guess you gotta stick with whatever you feel comfortable with. King Sejong Station is going to be the next map. Very interested to see what MaNa has planned to try and bring the series back, because he's now sitting at a 0-2 deficit. And we'll see what he has in store.
King Sejong Station, at least it's a more normal map, but again, the weird choices out of MaNa have left me just questioning so much.
All right, well, here we go, and we'll find out. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, in game number 3, as we start up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, top of the red Protoss player from Team Liquid. It's Liquid MaNa.
And in the bottom right, he's up 2-0, and this could be his last game if he can lock it down here. It's going to be the blue Protoss from NC Sports, Welmu.
Okay, so one of the things about King Sejong Station, there is a very direct pathway for all the units to come just straight across the map. It's a very obvious pathway, but occasionally, it's not very often, but occasionally you do end up seeing some players trying to get a little bit tricky with the Adepts. They try and juke around where the Stalkers anticipate the Adepts moving in, so you'll see the Stalkers moving over toward where the normal 4th expansion would be, trying to intercept the Adepts, and the Adepts move along the long path around, and that can actually help get the Adepts a couple more kills just because the Stalkers are a bit out of position. I love seeing like the small little pathing adaptations with the Adepts early on in this game.
I guess my big question is just like, does MaNa end up making some mistake early on that's going to cost him? Like, it's sad to be talking like that so early, but just the mistakes so far have been costly, and hopefully for him, I know for a fact that every time we've ever cast MaNa in like a ZVP and other matchups, the worse he's doing in the series, and particularly in a game, the better he starts playing. So maybe he's at that motivational point right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, mistake is one way to look at it. I do just feel like he's taking risks that aren't paying off, more so than just like making flat out mistakes, because mistake implies that it's something that as soon as he did it, he realized he didn't intend to do it, versus a risk is something he intends to do and it doesn't pay off and like you regret it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, Adepts are going to be making their way across the map once again for Welmu. MaNa did go for the 2-stalker opening once again, although he did go for the stalkers before the Nexus as far as I'm aware. Pylon should be finishing up as well. And ooh, I really like this. This is a nice little adaptation. Going for double gateway wall in, and now, yeah, you can build that pylon, cancel it. And even though it's a little bit less mineral efficient than, say, blocking it with another Adept Shade of your own, it does get the job done in terms of blocking those Adepts.
Yep. Keep them out of the base. Don't take that damage.
And now the Stalkers can actually just chase down these Adepts, since the natural expansion is not exactly mining just yet. What's sort of funny also is that Welmu will probably just be shading these Adepts around, and he might not even try and go all the way up the ramp. Oh, actually, he might finally get in over here. Stalkers are chasing one of them down. He does get one of them. Photon Overcharge forced out, and the Adept is going to be able to get away. If it's paying attention, it could get into the middle and kill off one worker. No, okay. Never mind. But doesn't really get a whole... Does he get vision of the Stargate? Yes, he does. Okay. So he does get vision of it. That's going to force out more Stalker Warpins. Going to leave his Mother Core back in his mineral line. And that should be worth the Adept Scout.
Well, finally we get to see MaNa making something happen. The Oracle may do some good damage, or may not. We'll find out here in just a moment.
Yeah. Going to be moving in, and even though the Oracle should not be getting a lot of damage done in the main base, there's so many Photon Overcharges that are available and a lot of good pylon placement, the Oracle should survive. You do not want to lose this Oracle. If it dies, it is a big mistake. Just because being able to use it for revelations later on in a PvP is really, really incredibly nice. Because, again, positioning, having good engagements, making sure you're not caught out of position is really important. As well as just keeping an eye on your opponent. You save a lot of your gas and not needing to warp in nearly as many sentries for hallucinate Phoenix Scouts. You just get to use the Oracle instead. Tries to go after a probe, doesn't quite get it. He's going to lose most of his energy, so have to back off for now. Welmu, in the meanwhile, getting a hallucinating Phoenix Scout out, is going to see Robotics Bay down, see the Stargate's not really doing a whole lot more. Sometimes there are some players that like to be a bit cheeky. They follow this up with some Phoenix, try and do something a bit wonky, like lifting up a lot of the Immortals, go for a big Phoenix Adept all in, even going for Void Rays occasionally, although that is even far less uncommon.
Thank you to the thing on Rifkin's face for the resell.
Does that make your face itch?
It does. I scratch my beard immediately every time I read that stupid name. I mean, that excellent name. Thank you for subscribing.
Yeah. Well, Adept drop is going to be able to focus fire down a couple of workers, and hey, gets out of there with both of the Adepts. Only one of them gets a bit low in health, but definitely worth it. Small little bits of damage. Just, I think MaNa is just playing this out much more solid. I think you brought this up a lot in that last game, but just it's always been the early game that's caused problems. Oh man, if that Oracle didn't remain there, if somehow Welmu didn't catch wind of that, wait, how did he have vision of that? Oh, he has the Observer there. Never mind. I didn't see the Observer. I was gonna say, if the Observer's not there, right? If the Observer's not there and the probe gets caught there, then the Stasis Trap probe actually blocks the Nexus from going down. So it prevents it from going down entirely, which is pretty cool. Pretty nice. Unfortunately, didn't end up coming into effect. I do like when Protoss players actually try and use Stasis Trap, though. It really is one of those spells that people realize, like, yeah, it can be good, even if it's not super reliable, but it's really good if you just keep using it.
Well, Archon's gonna be a nice addition to the army. We're gonna have Archons on both sides of the field too. As MaNa, we finish up the Templar Archives soon. But this is exactly the type of PvP I was hoping to see in Game 1, where it's not over in an awkward amount of time. That we actually do have some pretty nice back and forth, good macro and whatnot behind it. Even the upgrades are gonna be should be even, at least by the time of the fight. A couple of depths get to the natural mineral base, and Welmu loses about 2 probes. Nothing too devastating. Oracle South also gonna come back home.
That delayed photon overcharge. Photon overcharge is after the adepts pick up and leave. All
Stay
right.
off my lawn.
Well, adepts shade on forward, and they're gonna be able to get on top of the sentries as well as the stalkers, but it does seem like those immortals gonna be adding in a lot of DPS over here from MaNa. Is it gonna be enough though? Mother Core needs to survive.
She can overcharge. That's actually a huge problem. 2 of the Archons still stand. They're soaking some of the damage. And let's not forget, Welmu's still warping in on the front lines. Both players starting to do some of that sick micro. But that War Prism, there he goes, saves another Immortal. Barely lives to see another day. More depths on that front line. The army supplies are so close at this point. But let's not forget, like, whoever gets ahead is going to stay ahead. And Welmu is so close to knocking MaNa out if he can just win this army fight.
Oh, these immortals,
there comes to help as well.
They're not going to be enough. They keep focusing right down on the adepts, and it's difficult enough to do the War Prism micro to do so, and also focus fire with the immortals after they drop out. It's asking too much. Mother Core for Welmu is over here, and actually is going to throw down a time warp. Make sure none of
that immortal has no health left. That thing's on 8 health. Anything shoots it, it's going to die. New adepts warping in. Probe's getting pulled away from this. He really wants to finish off that immortal. Barrier is almost off cooldown. Picks up the War Prism to save it once again.
Oh man, Probe's trying to get out of there, but the probes are starting to die. At this point, I feel like enough damage has already been done. If Welmu loses a majority of this army, but trades out for even part of the army from MaNa, I feel like he's still going to be very happy with this, but you can see the big warp in over here. Welmu already setting up 2 games, is about to move on and get a 3rd win and move on to the next round of DreamHack Montreal.
I mean, I gotta give MaNa some credit how much he's kept these immortals alive, but he just lost 5 gateways and the robo for warp-ins, so that's it. Everything here gonna get whittled down. GG, well played gets called, and Welmu will take a 3-0 to advance on to the round of 8.
PvP is apparently the only matchup we get to see the 3-0s on the B stream over here, but
yeah,
very well done. Welmu just seriously, honestly, dominating MaNa a little bit over there. Even after we had a game where MaNa was doing fairly well in the early stages of the game, didn't take a lot of damage, still just gets kind of destroyed in the big push-in. Losing that Mother Core, I feel like that Mother Core, the Photon Overcharge, completely changes the way that that engagement goes. Suddenly, I think that those adepts and they don't really survive nearly as long. And then when the adepts are gone, immortals are hitting those stalkers directly or hitting the other immortals directly. And suddenly, those units for Welmu, they just end up dying much quicker. And I don't think that Welmu just loses right there, but I think he has to back off. I don't think that push wins the game. So it's a really, really important and nice snipe off for that Mother Core.
Well, one of the things about this coming up next now is going to be a Laser versus Drogo best of 5 ZVP. I'm actually really this match makes me a lot more excited than even the Polt matchup that follows it, because it'll be Polt versus Tudeming at the end of the day, with a Laser versus Drogo up next. We got 2 amazing best of 5 still remaining. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to go to a break. I'll be back probably in, I would guess, 10 to 15 with our next series.